welcome to Reopen the Gate, the Guiders Against Trans Exclusion official podcast. We are your hosts, Elle, she, her.
And lo, they, she. This week we'll be talking about the action that Gate has taken against this transphobic change to Girlguiding's policy, including protests, working with other organisations, and even attending a panel in Parliament with MPs.
But firstly, before we get started, we want to take a moment to talk about some recent developments within Girlguiding itself. On Tuesday, the 24th of March, Girlguiding released new guidance about the effect the new policy would have on current Girlguiding members, including young people and leadership. This guidance states that all transgender girls and women will have to leave their prospective roles by September 6th, 2026.
This not only means that girls who want to join will no longer be able to, but young girls will be actively ousted and removed from a community that they may have already spent most of their lives in. Further, leaders who help keep guiding alive and provide these experiences for their young members will leave communities that they have helped build from the ground up.
But this goes even farther than just a small percentage of poor girls and women being removed from weekly meetings. This will cause suicide, this will cause self-harm, prejudice growth within units, and queer youth and leaders feeling the need to leave or hide in fear of being the next ones on the chopping board.
Girlguiding have chosen to ignore this wider impact to appease wealthy transphobic individuals, and for the sake of preserving an outdated charter, they have started the beginning of the end for an organisation that once meant so much and stood so tall, an organisation born because girls were being excluded, set to end from that exact same sentiment.
But we here at Gate refuse to give up because we know how powerful our community is and what this means to our members. How this community has saved lives and been a grounding point for all the kids who didn't fit in anywhere else. We will keep fighting, we will keep making change, and we will keep getting louder because that is what we were taught to do.
This all takes us on to this week's theme of the podcast, which is They Taught Us to Take Action, an episode that will focus on what Gate has done so far and how we're channeling all of our heartbreak into action. So, what has Gate actually done so far?
Well, the most obvious thing that we've done is our protests. We have now ran 8 UK-wide protests in London, Edinburgh, Sheffield, Birmingham, Cardiff, Manchester, Dundee, and Bristol, each with great turnouts and hundreds of members of joining us in solidarity with our trans siblings. These protests, whilst absolutely fueled by anger and heartbreak, have resulted in beautiful testimony readings, speeches, singing campfire songs together, and a sense of community and support that many of us have not felt in our other guiding communities for quite a while.
These protests have also brought us considerable media attention, both positive and negative, with reports from STV, BBC, Sky News, as well as articles in the Daily Mail, The Telegraph, and Pink News. We've also hosted a variety of other in-person and virtual events to help grow and support our community, such as our craftivism events in Belfast and online, leafleting in Stockport, and of course our big virtual sleepover that was held a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. We've also had an absolutely amazing response to the launch of our first campaign pack, 100 for 100, which you can find out in more about on this video just here. Um, From the release of that pack until now, which is just over a month and a half, nearly 2 months, we have had over 7,806 submissions total throughout our 3 action pillars, which is absolutely insane.
It's insane.
And we keep getting more every single day, and they're coming in the mass. We're getting some submissions of nearly 30, 40 submissions a day. So keep pushing, keep doing it because we love seeing this, and just that number alone shows how much of an impact this community has had. So thank you so much for doing this. Beyond our events, we have also effected change across Girlguiding's own UK-wide membership and within our wider community, with a petition with over 36,000 signatures pushing for the immediate reversal of the policy and a letter of intent to resign with nearly 500 leaders signed on to that. Despite being girl-led, Girlguiding have also lost some of their youth advocacy members, such as youth parliament members who feel they are just not being listened to.
What's so important to remember is that these aren't just numbers. They're individual people who have been affected in hundreds of units, districts, communities, who will impact thousands of young members as many units close, as well as the loss of experiences such as residentials, internationals, advocacy roles, and many other opportunities that we have been lucky enough to have in our time. This will also put increased pressure on the remaining volunteers, putting even more people at risk by inviting in more new volunteers with prejudice and discriminatory views.
Next, we want to talk a little bit about how Gate has progressed from a community on a group chat to a full-on association and what that has meant for us behind the scenes. So I'm going to pass on to our treasurer, Bethan, to talk a little bit more about this. We have Bethan here today, who is Gate's treasurer, and she's going to talk with you a little bit about what we've been doing in the backgrounds of Gate Works, so how we've moved from a group chat to a community to an unincorporated association and what that's looked like in terms of like finances, merch, website, all the technical things that people like myself and Lo don't really get too in detail with. So this is basically the brains of the operation, and I'm going to pass over to Bethan to just introduce herself now.
Hi, thanks. So I am Bethan. I use she, they pronouns. And I am the treasurer, which basically started as we had the group chat, which then turned to the community, and badges were obviously immediately suggested. Um, and so I just started looking for badge companies, and I managed to find someone who would do us embroidered badges by the time of our first protest.
Which is like a 2 week turnaround. So like, well done.
10 days.
10
Because it was
days.
second to the 12th. Yeah, 10 days.
So fabulous.
Uh, yeah, so we managed to get those, and they were all ordered through a jot form that then went into a PayPal account. Um, and then I had to manually write every order out. And then every label I printed was hand cut out and then stuck with tape around the edges. Um,
Full Facebook badge swap style, like
yes, but times many. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then we got past the first protests. We started thinking about more badges and the sort of the future of Gate. We started thinking about setting up a website. At which point we looked into the Shopify website we have now, and they really handily offered a 3-day free trial.
Yep.
So in that 3-day free trial, we planned and created the entire website by the time it was the 1st of January when we launched. And that was when we actually started paying for Shopify on that day. So we made the entire website in 3 days, which was actually just me and you, pretty much.
Yeah.
Very stressful.
Hoping for the best that we know how to set things up with an entirely new system that we'd never worked on before, making it all look pretty. And the team was really busy at that time as well. It was early January, and if any of you know, that is the same time that our first official campaign, 100 for 100, came out. So we were very much busy bees in the background, and Bethan was trying to get the website ready for that launch and having all the pretty things ready, which was fun. If you want to tell us a little bit about how that kind of setup was.
The setup for 100 for 100 is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So we had already ordered the initial badges. So we had the 2 woven badges and the pin badge. And then I had to order the 100 for 100 badges, which is technically 4 badges. So we had a lot of orders that we knew weren't going to come into our account, like the money wouldn't come back into our accounts. We hadn't sold them yet, but we have to pay for them first. So some of the lead team, like we believed in it so much that we invested personally into Gate to get these badges started. Just because like we know the strength of everybody who is in Gate and working with us.
Yeah.
But it was a very stressful time to try and get everything ready and prepped. All of the 100 for 100 pages, trying to make sure all of the because it's 100 challenges, we needed to make sure we copied every 100 challenge across properly.
Yes. And no matter how many times you count, I don't know if we've ever gone over the creation of this pack, no matter how many times you count 100 items, you will always come back with either a different number or a repeat or some form of confusion. So this pack
Yes.
was like getting ready to release, and we were putting things on the website and still coming across repeats. And we only have 96 challenges. Oh, we actually have 108. How did we do that? Like, still working out those things whilst we're also trying to get this website structured in a way that makes sense.
Yes.
And then there was also the issue of the way that you submit your challenges on our website is that you have to set up a form that it basically takes all the information in. Once you establish the selections on those forms, you cannot go back in and edit it without great difficulty. So we had to make sure if we were shifting any challenges into different pillars or changing them in any way, that it was done and ready before we fully listed them. And then we had to like come up with the how we were going to display that, which was a lot of work for Beth.
Yes. And also with the forms. Initially, when we made the forms, it somehow made every single challenge turn to a number. So once it was submitted, all we knew was what number challenge had done, but we didn't number the challenges.
No.
So I went in and had to remake all of the forms and put in all of the submissions again, so that the challenges were actually the challenge and not a number.
A lot.
It got very complicated very quickly.
Yeah. And you may wonder, where does all this money go? Because it's definitely not going into one of our accounts. So, Bethan, how was it in terms of like setting up a more official bank account for us after we were just messing around with PayPal trying to get badges sold to people coming to protest, moving to like, okay, we're actually selling things now. How was that kind of transition?
Yeah, it was difficult. It was more complicated than it initially seemed because you look at it and you're like, oh, I need this kind of account, and all of these different companies offer it. And then we went to one banking place. Me and the other signatories went to go and like get everything signed over, make sure everything was approved. And they've decided that because we do protesting and because we can be seen as political, we were too much of a risk for the bank. So we did initially get turned away. Yeah, a little stressful. But once we found a bank that was happy to accept us, it was pretty simple, just taking time to get everything to the right person and all of the letters to come through and everything to just get finalized. But now all the money is in the place that it should be.
And the only concern with it is when we have to try and transfer any type of money or confirm payments because we have to get all the gate team signatories to be a live, alert, awake, and enthusiastic-ish at the same time to verify those things.
Yeah.
But it works out pretty well.
Yeah.
And how is kind of like you're doing the treasury side, you're doing the website side, basically anything that falls into like our online presence in terms of like merch and stuff all falls to you. But that does have a physical side too. So how is like organizing all of the orders and like the packaging and stuff going?
Yeah, so like I said, with those initial embroidered badges, I was sending them out like individually envelopes and like sticking on printed labels that I was ordering. You can only order up to 10 labels on the Royal Mail website, which means I had to manually input those addresses and then print them and then stick them. And I know we sold like 100 badges that I had to individually post out at least. So that was interesting. We then upgraded a little bit once we did the woven badges instead of over on the website. We got like an official business Royal Mail account, and now I don't have to manually input people's addresses. It does it all for me, and it's all connected and wonderful. Um, However, we had so many orders of those initial badges. We um, because it took about a month for everything to arrive that we were expecting to arrive. It took a lot longer than I initially thought. Um, there was so many pre-orders. I got another one of the lead team to come in and sit with me, and we packed hundreds and hundreds of parcels. I was going to like Royal Mail collection points to hand them all over, and I was staying there for half an hour as we scanned every individual parcel. I think my biggest bag at one time was 108, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, we did not make friends necessarily with those people at the time.
The random like Tuesday, and you're just like, oh, there's like 400 parcels coming through.
Yeah,
Workload's just gotten a bit busier.
yeah, but
Oh, nice. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today, Beth. And we will definitely see you come back at some point. And it's nice to have like a little insight into what Gate has been doing in the background as all this amazing chaos has been going on. So thank you for being here.
thanks for having me.
We want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing beyond guiding, to which I'll pass over to Lily, one of our main strategy advisors, who's going to talk about her experience representing Gate on an MP panel at Parliament. Welcome back to the podcast. Can you introduce the panel a little bit for us and tell us what you got up to?
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk a little bit more about what Gate has been doing kind of behind the scenes involving Parliament, because we have been making some really great progress that I think not many people know about at the moment. So something very significant that we did last month is that we were invited to speak on a panel held in Parliament, hosted by Trans Solidarity Alliance, who are a really great organisation and very clearly aligned with our mission. So I was the speaker that went along in this panel. I also had another member of Gate come along with me, just kind of for support, for note taking. I get very anxious when I speak, so it's very helpful to have someone there who doesn't have memory blackouts when in a panel session. I've been in and out of Parliament before, but not to speak on a panel. So that was one of many new experiences I've had through volunteering for Gate.
A big step up.
Um, Big step up. Yeah, I mean, step sideways. I wouldn't say the other things I was doing were lesser, but it was as I said, hosted by Trans Solidarity Alliance through an MP. I'm not going to name any relevant MPs in this
Of
talk just
course.
for fairly obvious safety reasons. There were also a few other MPs in attendance in addition to the staffer of the person hosting us. There were also staffers of other MPs. This is a common thing when the MP's already got a prior commitment, they'll send someone along to take notes. We also had quite a lot of attendees from kind of other relevant organizations, groups like Liberty, the Good Law Project. I won't name all of them, but if you can imagine the kind of people who are relevant and involved in these kind of talks. It was a panel basically focused on the impact of this ruling on inclusive organisations, a little look at the kind of legal pressures that have caused this situation and the legal circumstances, a discussion as well on the impact of the lives of the trans people that have been affected by the changes organisations like Girlguiding have made. So there were 5 people on the panel. TSA was chairing. They also had someone who could talk about the legal elements. I was there primarily to talk about the sort of human effect, the on the ground impact of this. So I shared, for instance, excerpts of the testimonies that Gate members have been sending in to us, the kind of the really heartbreaking stories that we have been seeing huge amounts of, and we've also been sharing the kind of impact at a unit level of groups that have had to cancel events or have been asked to stop using the premises that they've been using, other such things. I also did have to explain a little bit about what girl guiding was, because anyone who's reading any news articles to do with the trans exclusive policy will know, a lot of people do not understand the organization culturally. So I did bring in that element of Girlguiding is an inclusive organization. This is in our promise. This is in our activity packs. So to be forced into this measure is completely against everything that we are as an organization. There was a speaker from Third Sector Against Transphobia, which sprung into existence almost exactly the same time as us, and they're kind of looking more generally at the impact on the charity sector. We also had a really impressive speaker who or is in charge of a facility who's like an events facility who's received an enormous amount of harassment just due to having gendering like all gender toilets in her building and just the like
Right.
amount of legal hassle she's had over just a bathroom. So everyone there spoke really well and I was really impressed by them and by myself. We had a good long chat afterwards with various people. It was really productive, and I'm really proud of what we did there. And we handed out some badges, absolutely vital for any Girl Guiding advocacy, of course.
Of course. And you mentioned to us before we started recording that you had a bit of a one-on-one chat with an MP. Again, we won't name names, but how was that experience for you and what kind of stuff did you talk about?
Yes, so this was a connection that we made as a result of doing the panel. A really quite influential backbencher that also has historical ties to Girl Guiding. So that again really helped because she understood the organization. She understood what we meant when we talked about wearing our promise badges. So we've been able to make that connection. We've had a little chat one-on-one. That took place yesterday, but quite unfortunately, less than an hour before the announcement dropped, which meant I couldn't discuss that, but hopefully we'll be able to pick up in the future. So we are building these connections within Parliament with various MPs, staffers, mission-aligned organisations. So that's definitely not the end of it. We are looking forward to other things. I don't want to go into too much detail, but that will be The Last of Us that will be in Parliament. We'll be have Gates representing at a reception next month and a couple other things in the works as well.
And what do you think GATE has to bring to these conversations that is so specific and human to what GATE represents? We obviously are mostly volunteers or now ex-volunteers ourselves, but what do you think GATE brings that other organizations like similar to us don't have?
I think our incredible strength is in our position as a grassroots organization. We are there on the ground, seeing the ins and outs of the everyday, seeing people's reactions, seeing the people who are impacted. So it's really wonderful kind of getting into these spaces and working with other organizations who have more of the sort of advocacy background so we can combine that into something really progressive and really impactful. So they come with the legal talk, we come with the impact talk, and together we make our points.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing everything with us, Lily. Yeah, by the time this episode goes out, we'll have attended both Trans Pride Scot in Edinburgh and the Together Alliance March in London. So look out for videos soon about those events. We're really excited to get there and we can't wait to see what we actually get up to there.
Yeah, it's
As
going to
we've
be
said
really great.
before, as we've said before, we have a call to action in each podcast episode, usually themed around whatever action we're focusing on. And this week it is surrounded about protests and what we can do to get involved.
Yep, so our call to action this week is heavily based off of what is actually coming up. So we're highly encouraging you to come along to our protests. Our next set that are happening after this weekend are planned for Sunday, the 12th of April, which is 2 weeks since the announcement that came out on Tuesday, which relatively follows the same timeline as our first set of protests, which were 2 weeks after the December announcement. The confirmed locations so far are definitely in Edinburgh and London. There are definitely going to be more to come, so please look out for those announcements and see which ones are local to you. If you're unable to attend for whatever reason, please still try and get involved by sharing our socials, sending us in your own stories, signing the petition, and using the hashtag GateOnline wherever you can to show that you're still protesting with us even though you can't show up in person. We also encourage every single one of you to write to your MPs or other representatives, especially people like Bridget Phillipson, the Minister for Women and Equalities, and of course, write to Girlguiding. Even if you've already sent an email or letters before, please let them know that our rage is enduring and that we are not stepping down no matter how much they push back.
Now more than ever, we need to stand together and fight for this. So thank you all so much for tuning in to listen to this episode of Reopen the Gate and sticking with us through this terrible, heartbreaking announcement. If you've liked what you've heard so far, make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for following episodes and any other updates from us. Thank you so much for listening. Bye, everyone.